We have Nightmare, we have Hearthstone, Lambo, and Goblin. And even Uwu Thermal at the bottom of the bracket. So plenty of amazing players are available here tonight. I believe Lambo is streaming his POV, so do recommend checking out either some POV streams or some of the other language casters out there covering some other matches. We're jumping in to our ZvZ. Let's go. I wasn't sure. Spawning in the bottom right hand corner of Oceanborn, we have our Italian Zerg player, the red Zerg representing Basilisk. It is Reynor. And spawning in the top left hand corner, we have the blue Zerg player from South Korea representing Guy Min Gladiators. It is SHIN. Let's go. And as we get into this, it happened in the last game, a big shout out to C Grail in the chat, resubscribing with Twitch Prime for 13 months in a row, 17 months in total. God, thank you so much for resubscribing. I didn't notice, I apologize for not shouting you out earlier, but thank you so much. Thank you. Do always appreciate the support. I hope you enjoy the casting, the content, the emotes, and all things ducks. Quack. Quack, puppy, quack. As we're settling in. Okay, now we have seen SHIN and Reynor go back and forth. They have gone back and forth. This is a hard one to call. It's going to come down to who is feeling better on the day, who is on point, who is ready for some ZvZ chaos and some action. For now, hatch gas pool. Standard openers. Standard opener out of Reynor, standard opener out of SHIN. Everything is looking as it should for the time being. We are settling into our initial ZvZ. And we will see where this leads us. Again, for now, everything's looking normal. We'll see if we get into third base setups. We'll see if either player tries to wall up on two bases and go for two base Roach and Skipling Bane. And we'll see when either player cuts worker production. Because as soon as we cut workers, ZvZ can get very chaotic. Oh boy. For now, everything is looking as it should. We have our initial scouting links on the way. Just going to be 2 links here from both players. The goal here is to send out our links across the map to get a read on any early Evo chamber, Baleen Nest, gases, saturation, third base. Our links are just moving out. Behind this, both players are joining. Are going to be joining up. You can see that SHIN even skipped a pair of lings, and he's going for a faster third. Third is on the way. Likewise, Reynor has his own third as well. Both players will confirm the third base timings. Queens are going to be waddling out. And there's that Baleen Nest from both players as well. So no one is playing two base, no one is cutting Banelings. Everyone is mirroring each other. So far, standard ZvZ. Just hatch gas pull into a third, into a Baleen Nest. Nothing crazy for the time being. Nothing crazy yet. You see Reynor threatens a dive, but is going to be zoned away by the Queen. Is going to be zoned away. The third hatchery tells us everything we need to know for the time being. Likewise, we confirm the Baleen Nest. That's all we do need to see. There's no need to really commit to any kind of dive. Ling speed does finish up slightly faster for Reynor, and hey, we pick off a Ling. Not bad. One Ling goes down. Oh, I do see a Roach Warren on the way here for Reynor already. Likewise, Roach Warren a little bit more hidden for SHIN behind the mineral line. But Roach Warrens are pretty comparable in their timings. Banelings do morph in. If I'm not mistaken, I believe Reynor did skip his Banelings. He has the nest, don't get me wrong, but I believe Reynor has not made any Banelings of his own. So technically, gas-wise, Reynor is being a little bit more efficient. As he sends out links across the map, he's looking to hit that third. But last, SHIN is in position, and SHIN will defend. So technically, Reynor, he will have additional gas to, make use with roaches and upgrades, and work on +1, work on the lair. There we go, lair is now on the way. Meanwhile, SHIN is making roaches. Okay, SHIN committing to quite a wave of roaches early on. Now, it looks like SHIN is going to posture. Basically, SHIN, he's going to make these roaches, and he should reveal them to the Overlord. Behind this, we're joining up. Behind this, we're just freely droning. Yeah, and here we go. Speaking of revealing to the Overlord, the roaches, they move out. They reveal themselves to the Overlords as well. And the goal here is to force a reaction out of Reynor. This is the ebb and flow of ZvZ, is constant fake outs. Basically, we're just feigning aggression. We're making it look like we're committing to a push. And as a result, Reynor, he's making roaches. He's making lings, and Shin is droning behind us. Because in a ZvZ, or because Zerg, the Zerg race is made in such a way where lava is used to make both drones and army, like, you have to be very careful with how and when you spend your larva, what you invest in. And ideally, you want to get the one up on your opponent. Oh, boom, as the bathing does not quite connect. Spire on the way for Reynor. Bold move. We're going for the Spire. Reynor goes for his own counterattack. Shin has been making some roaches here to defend. Shin was able to drone up a little bit faster, but just now taking his gases, investing into his own roach play. And Reynor is the one being cheeky. He's saturating his gases, taking a fourth, droning up to 65 already, and working towards those mutas. Meanwhile, Shin staying on a bit of a lower worker count. Oh, Reynor actually, he droned up quite a lot. We droned up to 70. This is a bit much, actually. This is quite greedy. Reynor, with this greed, does mean that he's going to be behind in the army supply here, and Shin, there's going to be a window. There's going to be a big window where he can go for a dive. He will not scout. Ooh, massive denial. The Spire is hidden. Shin is not aware. But Shin, he throws out his own Spire, and we're massing more roaches. Again, Shin, he has almost double the army supply of Reynor. Reynor is... He's still droning! I mean, Shin, he's cut workers at 55, and Reynor, he's droning up to 75. 20 more drones. I'm very concerned. I'm very concerned here for Reynor. Here we go. The roaches are moving out. Sure, we have some mutas on the way for Reynor, but Shin has a massive army supply, and we'll see if he can break through. Meanwhile, Reynor, spine crawlers. Spine crawlers are on the way for Reynor. Here at the third base, roaches are pushing in. Mutas are revealed. And does Shin have enough to break through? Leaves out 2 roaches initially. The queens are trying to hold their own. They don't have any transfuse, and Shin, he will break through the ground army. But how much economic damage? That's the question. As roaches are trickling in. Shin, likewise, running out of steam a little bit. He does break through the initial line of defense. But more roaches on the way, and Reynor, he's holding. Reynor's holding on at the same time. Ooh, a big link counterattack at the 4th base. So Reynor, he holds against the main army, but that's going to be 8 dead workers. Ooh, a Ravager as well. Can we get the base? Can we get the 4th? We can. We can, and we will. The 4th base will fall. Good pick goes here by Shin. Roaches, they waddle back home. And remember, we had a Spire, so Corruptors are on the way. Do you have a wave of Corruptors to defend? And Reynor has to go for his counterattack. He has to move out. He is moving out across the map. Shin amassing his own roaches. And can Shin defend? Looking at the units tab here, Shin down currently in the roach play, or in the roach count. Corruptor's going to be forcing the mutas back, shutting down Overlords. Roaches, they hit the 4th. And Shin, he has to buy time. He just has to build up his roach count. 4th base goes down. And now the economy is pretty comparable. Remember, Reynor, he was greedy. He droned up to 75, but he lost 8 workers. Shin also droned up. So the economies are quite similar. In a head-to-head fight, these Corruptors will fare better than the mutas, but we can see that we're done with mutas. We're going into Hydras. So I really like the fluidity here of the tech of Reynor. His ability to just go from Spire tech into Hydra tech into Roach Hydra. I do think that this does fare better for Reynor. Meanwhile, the mutas, they do dive in, and yeah, we're just gonna sack them. How many drones can we get for these mutas so far? 3 workers. Oh, we're gonna get 4. We get 4, 5, 6 drones go down. And again, Reynor knows that this is a one-way trip. He's happy to just throw these mutas away, but he doesn't throw them, he trades them. He gets 10 drone kills. These mutas have already served their purpose. And Reynor, he's maxed out. He's maxed out with Roach Hydra. And Shin is in a rough position here. Like, he's stuck on a lower economy, lower worker count. He's stuck on 3 bases. He doesn't have a 4th. He didn't rebuild. Shin is going to be quite committed. What I will say is that I do like Shin's army a little bit better. I mean, there's a give and take. Shin has a lot of Ravagers to work with and a lot of micro potential with his ground army. Reynor, Hydras, they can be really good supportive units, and we haven't made too many Hydras, thankfully. What's the Corruptors? They're going for the Roach Warren. They're gonna get this. Oh no! No, we pull away too soon. One more second. Oh my god. So close, Papi. So close. The Corruptors, they back off. SHIN, he pulled out. Stay in, Papi. Stay in. And with that, Reynor, he can reinforce with roaches. Corruptors coming in for a flank files. Ooh, some of them do connect. Nice splits here out of Reynor. And at least the Corruptors are buying time. They're keeping some Hydras busy. But last, the ground army of SHIN is being forced back. He's running out of roaches. And Pure Ravager just does not really hold a candle to this army. And we're going to lose everything. Yeah, Reynor, he catches the main army. That's going to be everything falling down here for SHIN. Barely anything left. And Reynor, he snowballs out of control. GG gets called. Reynor takes game number 1. Whew. GG. A solid game there from Reynor. It was risky going for the mutas. I thought he was too greedy, and Reynor did take damage, but he could afford those losses. Remember, Reynor, he lost his 4th base, he lost 8 workers, but he held, he survived the push. His mutas able to deal some harassing damage across the map, and yeah, Reynor was able to just take a lead from that moment. Risky, but did work out for Reynor. GG. GG, well played, does take a lead, and we'll see if SHIN can bounce back. Again, I'm hoping for an ace match. I'm hoping that SHIN can take game 2. We can go all the way to game 3, regardless of how this goes, but the pressure is now on SHIN. Pressure is on SHIN. And we'll see where this series takes us. As game 2, soon to be determined. There we go. Game 2 going to be on, ooh, interesting, Side Delta. Okay. Side Delta, quite a large map. Quite a large map here, and with Side Delta, of course, we have access to play 2 base as well. There's a ramp coming into the natural, so your 2 base setup is very defendable. 2 base play is a little bit more viable on Side Delta if our players wanted to embrace that. Otherwise, it's quite a large map. I wouldn't be opposed to muta play. We just saw it in game 1. Do we see it again? Is it wise to do that 2 games in a row? It's up to our players to decide. Up to our players here. Let's go. And spawning in the top left hand corner of Side Delta, we have our red Zerg player representing Basilisk from the land of Italy, living in Korea. It is Reynor. And spawning in the bottom right hand corner, we have the blue Zerg player representing Gaimin Gladiators from South Korea. It is SHIN. And Reynor does have the lead here. Reynor taking a risk in that last game, being hyper greedy, rushing into a Spire, and did get away with it in the end. Again, was able to just take control of the game from that moment forward. But we'll see where we take, or where our players take us here in game 2. As for now, hatch first. Getting into our hatch first openers. Should be hatch gas pool. But again, I'm really curious as to whether or not we take a 3rd base, or if we stay on 2 bases a little bit longer instead. Curious as to how both Reynor and SHIN will approach this. Now we do have our gases being taken, spawning pools on the way. Have our spawning pools here, and with that, we're just going to be mirroring each other. You know, I don't expect any crazy 12 pools or 13 12s, at least not on some of these larger maps. You know, maybe on Ghost River or maybe on Post Youth as well. That's another viable option. But outside of those smaller maps, we should be seeing standard openers. So Overlords do confirm each other. 2 Overlords from both players. Checking the timing of the hatchery. And from here, it's about whether we take the 3rd or stay on 2 bases. The reason why I mentioned earlier that Side Delta is a map where it's a little bit more viable to play 2 base is because of the ramp. This is applicable to PvP as well, which is why we see gate expands. But here there's a ramp coming into natural, which means it's that much more defendable. So if we did want to wall up and throw down a Roach Warren and an Evo Chamber and go 2 base Muta or just 2 base Roach, then We do see that a little bit more frequently, but here we go. The drones are moving out. Third base being taken by Reynor, and third base being taken by SHIN. Okay. Standard openers, Pappy. Standard openers. We're taking a third. We should be seeing a Bailey Nest thereafter. We're getting into our ZvZ. There's a Bailey Nest for Reynor. Should be seeing one from SHIN. Is now on the way. And from here, we should now be droning. We'll keep an eye on our Roach Warren timings. We could try to rush into an earlier Roach Warren, but especially on a map as large as Side Delta, we don't see that too often. Lane Scout is denied. Does at least confirm the Bailey Nest. SHIN has to back up. And SHIN is making an extra wave of Lings. Okay, we have 10 more Lings in production. Whereas Reynor has been droning. So with that, Reynor does take a slight economic advantage. And we do have a Roach Warren on the way. Again, not hidden or anything crazy like that. Link speed kicks in. And ideally, SHIN wants to make use of these Lings in some way. Alas, just making defensive Banelings and staying back at home. SHIN playing a little bit safer, which means Reynor is able to get a slight economic advantage. Reynor going to be the one to throw down the Bailey Nest, sorry, the Roach Warren early on, and there's +1 Carapace. Let's go. Okay, Reynor's going to be the aggressor. Now, what we're seeing here is this should be, I mean, Solar popularized this build a couple of years ago, but this should be a Roach Ling all-in with a +1 Carapace timing. +1 Carapace is not the best upgrade. It doesn't really scale amazingly into the mid-game. +1 range is better than this, but this does affect not just your Roaches, but your Lings as well. It does mean that defensive Banelings are not as effective. Not anymore. So it's a way to just send it across the map. Roach production has begun. We can see SHIN has made a wave of defensive Roaches, just like the previous game. Looks like SHIN wants to once again posture while he's droning, and this is dangerous. This is going to be dangerous here because SHIN, he's faking a move out when Reynor is not, he's not faking anything. Like Reynor, he's going to be committing. Oh, I say that, we do have 5 extra drones on the way and extra gases. Never mind, I mean, +1 Carapace is still a ways off. Meanwhile, SHIN, he pulls back. Did mention that again, SHIN, he was faking a move out. Reynor, still droning. Cutting workers at 54. Roaches are amassing. +1 Carapace a ways off. I mean, we're almost done. And with the arrival of these overlords, Reynor should be committed. Yeah, I love that he's taken this gas geyser instead of the gas geyser in the main. So he's kind of giving some false information here to SHIN. As yeah, Reynor, he's massing Lings, he's massing Roaches. A big push on the way here from Reynor. Now, thankfully, SHIN is not overdroned. SHIN likewise didn't take his gases in the main base either. SHIN, he's on 56 workers and massing Roaches. So SHIN, this is going to be his, like, the ideal situation for him to defend and to survive this, as Reynor has not droned in quite some time. And here we go, we pull the trigger. +1 Carapace is now done, and we're sending everything across the map. Again, this build was a build that Solar did popularize. It's basically a hatch all-in, hatch tech all-in. There's no lair. No lair, no Roach speed, no +2, no nothing. It's all on the table for Reynor. One way or another, the game ends. Either he kills SHIN or he dies trying. But again, SHIN didn't overdrone. Like, SHIN, he has plenty of Roaches. We have 28 against 19. Oh my god. SHIN is more than ready. Again, calling Reynor's bluff. He's like, you're not droning, Pappy. No shot. Bailings do crash in. Decent connections on the Roaches. But the concave is real, and SHIN, he's gonna knock this down. Getting very committed here by Reynor. Biles won't be connecting. And Reynor, he just runs up against a brick wall. Lings are doing well, buffering. They do quite well here. We do have another transfuse available here for SHIN. But SHIN, he's just breaking through this. The Roaches, the Ravagers, the Lings. SHIN will defend. SHIN has Roach speed, and now SHIN can counterattack. Again, it was a risky build here by Reynor. He was hoping that SHIN would be too greedy, take a 4th base and overdrone. But we mentioned, SHIN didn't even saturate on 3 bases. Like, he didn't even saturate that. Stayed on, I think it was 56 drones, 54 to 56. And now here comes a massive counterattack. Reynor has almost nothing left, as he was completely all in. GG gets called, and SHIN ties up the series 1-1. GG. GG, well played. Once again, a risky move here out of Reynor. Game 1, it was risky going for the mutas, got away with it. Same with the overdroning. Here in Game 2, Reynor set up for a hatch tech all-in and was hoping that SHIN was maybe droning up too much, was going to be caught being too greedy, but it's SHIN we're talking about. SHIN, one of the more aggressive Zerg players out there in Korea. I say one of the more, it's like SHIN and Dark, you know, Solar being more macro-oriented. But SHIN, he stayed on a low drone count, he stayed on 56 workers at most, and was hyperfixated on making his own roaches. Likewise, +1 range kicked in for SHIN, roach speed kicked in for SHIN for the counterattack, and SHIN did snowball out of control. And with that, we are going to the ace match. We're going all the way to Game 3. Let's go. Let us go. So you have to give me the sub. Thanks. We have had some people gifting subs throughout the past week. So do appreciate it. Do appreciate it. I think it was Monteon. Monteon yesterday gifted 20 subs, which is crazy. Yesterday or the day before. Welcome, welcome, Monsieur Optimus Prime. As we're getting to the ace match, it all ends here. It all ends in Game 3. Now, for the most part, this series, it's been Reynor has been more decisive, right? We're taking these risks and taking these chances. You know, Game 1 joining up to 75 workers and getting into the Spire. Here, Game 2, cutting workers at 54, going for the hatch tech all in. What do we see this time? Where are we headed, Papi? Where are we headed? As spawning in the top right-hand corner of Alcione, we have our Italian Zerg player, the Red Zerg representing Basilisk. And, oh my god, going for a 15-15. Okay, very safe opener here out of Reynor. The Italian stallion himself, and spawning in the bottom left-hand corner, we have his opponent. We have the South Korean Zerg player, the Blue Zerg representing Gaimin Gladiators. It is SHIN. Tying up the series 1-1, forcing the ace match. Here we go. Now, for those that are curious as to how this plays out, basically, with a 15-15, it is a 15 hatchery into a 15 spawning pool. Very safe build. If SHIN went for a 12 pool or a 13-12 or a pool first or a gas first, any kind of aggressive build, then Reynor would be safe against it. Just because his spawning pool would be a little bit earlier and he'd be able to, as you can see, the spawning pool is already on the way for Reynor. Still nowhere in sight for SHIN with a standard opener. So because of this, we get earlier queens and earlier lings. We get later link speed and later banelings, but you need queens and lings early on to defend. So Reynor was just assuming, or took a bit of a risk or a chance once again, in case and assuming that SHIN would be more aggressive. We can see standard opener out of SHIN. Standard opener, so I want to favor SHIN here in the early game. And for Reynor, because of his delayed gas, we may even opt to delay the third base. We may even just play 2-base Roach instead. That is suddenly a bit of a more viable option for Reynor. The reason why I say it's now more likely that Reynor plays 2-base is because of link speed. Is because SHIN has a big gas advantage, and in a mirror matchup, this is a pretty big deal. SHIN will have faster link speed, he will have faster banelings, and if we go into link bane aggression, SHIN will have the advantage, a pretty big advantage. So because of this, usually Zerg players would, Reynor, he's not even fully saturating the gas. We're skipping link speed. We're playing 2-base. We should be throwing down a Roach Warren, Evo Chamber, walling up on 2 bases, and again, being more defensive. And that means that SHIN has the option to be greedy. SHIN can take a third, can drone up quite nicely. SHIN has to be careful. It's a fine line between being greedy and just dying. Because if Reynor goes for a 2-base all-in, then SHIN could just fall over. Speaking of, there's a third base for SHIN, and Reynor, he should be staying on 2. Yeah, he's staying on 2 bases, he's walling up. So 2-base play at a Reynor, meanwhile 3 bases from SHIN. So SHIN, his advantage is going to be his economy. Meanwhile, Reynor, his advantage is going to be his roaches. as we should be throwing down a Roach Warren. Now, off of 2 bases, we could go a couple of different routes. We could play 2-base Roach. We could go 2-base Muta and go into a Spire if we take all of our gases. We could go for an all-in. We could just be 2-base Roach into a later third just for like a macro game. The lair is prioritized. Fast lair here from Reynor. Very fast lair. And as you can see, Reynor, he just skipped link speed. Like, especially because of the opener, because you know that you're going to be behind in link speed, we just skip it, and that gas is spent on the lair. Meanwhile, sure, Shin has link speed, but does it really matter? Like, what can we do with link speed? We can delay a third that isn't even here. So, like, again, link speed doesn't really do much. It gives us some scouting. Overlord gets shut down. Shin, oh, going for +1 carapace. Okay, this, I mean, we saw this in the last game. Remember, Reynor, he went for a hatch-based or hatch-tech all-in with carapace, and it looks to be something similar from Shin. Looks like the build that Reynor went for in Game 2. Meanwhile, Reynor, he's investing into +1 range. That tells us that Reynor is going 2-base Roach. Meanwhile, Shin, it looks like he's going Ling Ravager. Basically, all the Roaches he makes should be morphed into Ravagers, and so we're going to have a lot of Lings as well. Now, what Shin is doing, this is almost like a blind counter to a 2-base Roach all-in. We can see that Reynor, he's taking, he's expanding, and Shin is now turning his own opener into an all-in himself. So Shin is going to be the aggressor. Shin is about to be the aggressor, amassing Lings and Roaches. He's cutting drones at 38 already, so very early drone count we're just stopping at. The Lings getting across the map, forcing out the transfuse. Nicely done. No more transfuses left between these queens. No more transfuses. Overseer coming in for a scout. No saturation at the third. And here comes the all-in. Lings, Ravagers as well. Everything across the map. And Reynor, he knows. He's aware. Spine Crawlers are on the way. Doesn't have any transfuses, which is concerning. And Reynor, he's going to have to give up on the third. I feel like if he tries to save the third base, it's a bait. And he's going to be shut down. So far, really good reactions here. Reynor, yeah, he pulls back to the natural. Gives up on the third. He can just force a cancel. No big losses. And can Shin break through? Oh, the Roach Warren is exposed. And the Roach Warren may go down. Spine Crawler does finish. Ooh, Vile's sending away the army. We catch out the Roaches. Massive surround here on the Roach army. Vile's a take down the Roach Warren. From here, Shinny backs off, and Shinny's droning. He's droning up. He backs off. He got the third. He got the Roach Warren. He got some Roaches. He's droning up behind this. And Shin should be safe to do so. And the question becomes, has he forced an all-in out of Reynor? Reynor's droning. Never mind. Reynor is droning up. Ooh, Overlord going to be shut down. That will supply block Shin. Reynor's moving out as well, taking down another Overlord. Big supply block there for Shin. And now we're entering a really interesting scenario here. Okay, so we need to take a moment to take stock. On the one hand, better upgrades for Reynor. Reynor, he's got +2 range and +1 carapace on the way, so a very strong 2-1 timing for Reynor. Meanwhile, he's down in the economy just because he has no third, so Reynor has some catching up to do when it comes to saturating this third base, but his Roach army is going to hit a really big power spike soon. Meanwhile, Shin, what does Shin have? He has more efficient mining, he's going to be able to drone up and saturate his third base. Because of his better economy, he should have a larger army with more Roach Ravager, but it's going to be lower quality Roach Ravagers, he's just now getting into +1 range. And Reynor, he's not droning. Reynor, he's not droning, he's moving out with a massive army. Trying to keep up with the Lings. The Lings, they do buy some time. Very nice moves here out of Shin. Just buying as much time as possible, forcing the army back. The Lings are respected. Reynor still trying to be active. And likewise, Reynor is now droning. He's droning up. Reynor's droning, so is Shin. Lings once again buying time. They commit. There they go straight into the main. Can we catch a queen? Oh, it's going to be close. And the queen does get away. We get one drone. One worker. Not quite worth it so far. And Reynor is moving out. I say that. Reynor backs up for a moment. He does get supply blocked. He wants that Overlord. Oh! He'll get it. Overlord goes down. I mean, what's very close here between SHIN and Reynor. SHIN now 1 upgrade behind, working on +2 range. He will soon catch up on upgrades. Meanwhile, Overlord speed is on the way. Drop Lords are being sent out. But they get spotted. Reynor getting ready. Reynor still droning. But SHIN, he's already at 69 workers. Nice, but he's already at max like 3 base saturation. SHIN, he's already done droning, which means he can focus on roach production. Reynor is not quite there yet. Once again, moving out. Oh. Reynor is spotted. Has plenty of Ravagers to work with. Spire on the way for SHIN. Bold move. It is a bit of a late Spire, but on the way nonetheless. SHIN taking a 4th. Reynor, not quite yet. Things they slip in. Drop Alert is set up. As soon as Reynor moves out, that's when the Drop Alert moves in. Ideally, that's kind of how we want to play this out. In the midst of a fight. Reynor now taking his own 4th base. Is pushing. Is spotted. And here comes the Drop Alert into the natural. Yeah, both players have maxed. Drop Alert does slip in. And Reynor's being forced back, bleeding out roaches. Oh no! Reynor, bit of miscontrol here, and he throws away a massive amount of roaches. That was what, 6, 7 roaches going down? 9 roaches going down. Oof. Meanwhile, Reynor going for his own drop play. 2 roaches are saved. So far, SHIN having some better trades. But we have tunneling claws on the way for both players. Likewise, with this drop harass, Reynor can bounce back and try to pull SHIN apart. We have an army on the right, we have an army on the left. We'll see if SHIN can defend. So far, Plasma Fire connecting. Nice splits from both players. SHIN pulls back, Reynor splits. Trying to push in the Biles. Once again, at the same time, drop into the mineral line. SHIN not quite in position. Drones are going down. Likewise, detection is barely in position. Files not connecting. Drop loading into the main. Reynor sniping Overseers. Do love to see it. Queen overextends, and SHIN, he's falling apart a little bit. Bleeding out Queens, bleeding out drones, bleeding out a little bit much, but here come the Mutas. Mutas are revealed. Hydrogen now on the way for Reynor. And how much damage can these Mutas get done? As we are at a position, where's the main army? Nowhere it needs to be. Massive supply block. Yeah, SHIN, he was here towards the south. He was distracted. Again, 13 drones go down. Reynor's done an insane amount of economic damage, but these Mutas, they're paying for themselves. They knock down so many Ravagers, so many Roaches. And now Reynor's in a bit of trouble. He is massing up Hydras. He is massing them up. But we have triggered a massive counterattack here from SHIN. As he sends everything across the map. And Mutas, they have no fear. They focus on the Ravagers one after the other. 1 Ravager left. And SHIN is pushing in. The Mutas will force back the army. Clouds going to be forcing back SHIN. Likewise, once again, 18 drones going down. He's all in. I mean, I say that. Reynor, his drone count isn't much better. More drones falling. Reynor, with his speed, it would just pull SHIN apart. Popping up in all these bases. 23 drones going down. Reynor, likewise, only has 57 workers. Again, his own saturation is not ideal. But this roach harass is keeping Reynor in this. Mutas hunting down more Overlords. Finally, roaches are being cleaned up. There's still the 1 roach on the right-hand side. Threading that mineral line. And both armies are maxed out. Reynor with better tech. Like, Reynor's getting ready for Lurker tech. We have a Lurker gen on the way. Hydra upgrades on the way as well. Reynor can take this. The Biles, oh, this choke point is brutal. There's no pushing into this. Reynor, he cannot defend his fourth. His fourth is going to go down. Massive pick off. Again, Reynor, he didn't mine through the minerals. He just can't go through. At the same time, Reynor attempting to harass. Shin bleeds out a handful of Ravagers, so a bit of an overextension here by Shin. But still well worth a base. Shin attempts to collapse in. Still have our Mutas active. Mutas is still out there. Reynor stuck on 2 bases. Stuck on 47 workers as well. Like, his economy is in shambles. In a longer game, Shin can maybe pull this off. I say maybe because we have lurkers. Like, even though Reynor, he has a worse economy, he's down a base, down in workers. Lurkers, they do scale better here in a longer game. Lurkers and Vipers. So Reynor can stabilize. He can stabilize and he can take another base. It's possible. Not easy, but it is going to be possible here. We can see that Shin is working his own hive. Hydrogen as well. Oh, we could have taken this fight actually. Only 4 Hydras. Only 4 Hydras. Very limited anti-air for the Red Zerg. And now we have additional Hydras coming in. Obviously it goes down. Lurkers have been spotted, and the Mutas, they hit the 4th once again. Lurkers are pushing out. Shin in a bit of trouble here. Now the Vipers, their goal for the time being is to zone away the Mutas. Speaking of, the Mutas come in! Up! Do we get a power bomb? Oh, do we get a power bomb? We do shut down both Vipers. Power bombs will connect. And at the same time, Reynor, he's gotten in between the bases. Pushing towards the natural. A brutal position to move into. Lurkers will be cleaned up. Roach Horn went down. Okay, no, never mind. Roach Horn's still alive. It's behind the base, behind the base. But Reynor, he knocks down the 3rd. The 3rd will fall. Brutal positioning on top of the high ground. Reynor trading as efficiently as possible. Yeah, he has control of the high ground. Breaks down the 3rd. Now he's going for the 4th. Going for the kill. Making sure that Shin has no economy. Buying so much time as well. Dragging Shin further into the main. Hatchery's going to go down. A very chaotic game state for both players. Shin trying to expand towards the north. He lost so many workers. But Shin has Vipers. Now, once again, though, didn't mine through all these minerals, so pushing down here, it's going to be difficult. Shin cannot push past this wall. Reynor holds his own. Shin re-expanding, re-saturating. Comparable economies, but Reynor, he's going to be able to max out first. Shin, do we still have the lurker down? We do! We can make lurkers. Shin can make lurkers. We can see Reynor going for a split push, heading towards the 3rd base. And Shin doesn't have the supply. He just straight up doesn't. He can't defend both places at once. Yeah, Shin is getting pulled apart. Reynor has arrived, borrows his lurkers. We have the yoinks. We do. We yoink 2. The yoinks come in, but we get the surround. Do we have a blinding cloud? Barely a blinding cloud. But alas, the numbers are in Reynor's side. They're in his favor. Collapses on the army, and Reynor, it looks like he will clean this up. He will take the series. GG gets called, and Reynor will take the series 2-1, knocking down Shin. GG. Oh my god. GG, well played. A very close series, very back and forth. There was some really good moments for Shin, and he did have a lead. Shin did have a lead at a time there, but if you remember, it was the multitasking of Reynor that really carried him in that game. Whether it was the tunneling claw of Roach Harass, or even the dive that he went for. If you remember when both players were maxed out, Reynor went for a dive into the natural. He snuck up behind the army with his lurkers, went into the natural, and then dove into the main. Then he dove into the main base, and yeah, with that, basically, Reynor was pulled apart. GG, well played. And with that, we're getting into our next series. We're following our player into the next round. Whew, GG.